Good morning, everyone. My name is Dakota Brazier, and I am Minister Mcleod's Senior Communications Advisor and Press Secretary. Thank you for joining us this morning. We are also joined by MPP Goldie Ghamari. Following the announcement this morning, we will be taking questions from the media. If you have a question, please put your name and outlet in the chat bar on the side, and I will unmute you to ask your question. Just a reminder, it will be one question, one follow-up. I'll now turn it over to MPP Ghamari for some opening remarks.
Thank you very much, and thank you everyone for joining us this morning for this very special and exciting announcement. I also want to thank Minister Mcleod for having me here this morning. Minister Mcleod is a believer in the importance of the arts and culture sector in Ontario, and even before COVID, she was working hard, and now it's just, she's been working even harder to support this industry because, tourism is so important here in Ontario, and I think we're all really lucky to have someone like Minister Mcleod advocating for tourism sector. Art is a portal for so many people to channel their creativity, emotion, and passion. It is diverse in its many forms and employs a wide range of artists along with those who work behind the scenes. The arts also play a vital role in the mental health of many Ontarians, especially our young people. And during this past year, the pandemic has negatively impacted the arts sector. We all know how enriching the arts sector can be, and the positive impact that it's had in our lives. And that's why I'm so pleased to be here today with my colleague, the Honourable Lisa Mcleod, Ontario's Minister of Heritage, Sport, Tourism and Culture Industries. The arts sector is an important part of Ontario's heritage and who we are as Ontarians. It allows for creative expression and is important for social, economic development and recovery, especially during these trying times. It's now my honor to introduce Minister Lisa Mcleod for this announcement. I'm looking forward to her remarks this morning. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Goldie. It is such a pleasure to have you here, and you have been a strong advocate for our sectors and for our city at Queen's Park and at home in the riding. And so I want to say thank you to you for joining us today. And I know there's some good news for you because one of the core cultural institutions is in your constituency of Carleton in Stittsville, the Aboriginal Experiences Arts and Culture Center. So we're very happy for you, and thanks for all your advocacy to make sure that that occurred. I want to thank everyone for joining us today. As you know, the Ministry of Heritage, Sport, Tourism and Culture Industries our sectors have been hit first. They were hit hardest, and they will take the longest to recover post-pandemic. That doesn't mean we've stopped investing, however. Throughout the past year, we've invested over $60 million into our Arts Council, in addition to the $20 million through Celebrate and Reconnect Festival and Events funding, $2 million into the Ontario Cultural Attractions Fund, and over $103 million to the Ontario Trillium Foundation. Today, I'm announcing $25 million in one-time funding for our core cultural institutions across the province of Ontario for over 140 different organizations that provide not only joy, but jobs across the great province of Ontario. In addition, we're going to be investing $1 million to individual artists to support the work and the creativity that they do. We want to make sure that our painters, our writers, our dancers, our visual arts performers, all of those in the cultural sector have a fighting chance to succeed globally post-pandemic once this has subsided. Today's announcement is part of a $25 million commitment in the fall budget that was tabled by Rod Phillips, and we were able to work with the Ontario Arts Council, one of the agencies within the ministry, in order to get this money out the door to much needed organizations at this critical time. The stabilization funding is important. The Ontario that we want and that we love and that we want to protect post-pandemic really vitally requires a strong and vibrant art scene and culture scene. And I know that in our city, we've been fortunate to be a cultural hub for the entire nation. And that's why today's announcement is very important for both myself and MPP Goldie Ghamari to invest over $1.1 million to a number of organizations across the city of Ottawa to stabilize their operations and ensure that when it's safe to do so, they can open their arms and their doors to the public once again. I'll read out the names of those who received funding in our city, and then I'll be happy to take any questions. As I mentioned, the Aboriginal Experiences Arts and Culture program will be receiving $46,000. The Canadian Film Institute will be receiving $26,000. City Folk will be receiving $73,000. The Great Canadian Theatre Company will be receiving $191,000. La Nouvelle Scene Gilles Desjardins will be receiving over $103,000. MIFO will be receiving $15,000. Multicultural Arts for Schools and Communities will be receiving $124,000. Music and Beyond will be receiving $62,000. The Ottawa Art Gallery will be receiving $119,000. The Ottawa Chamber Society will be receiving $117,000. The Ottawa Jazz Festival will be receiving $117,000. The School of Dance will be receiving $63,000. The University of Ottawa will be receiving $15,000 for their press, and Blues Fest will be receiving just over $50-some thousand. So in total, over $1 million will be coming to the City of Ottawa to support our vibrant cultural and art scene in order for us to prepare out of this pandemic and to make sure that these core cultural institutions and the artists that they support are open to the public when it's safe to do so. I'm happy to take any questions, but mostly I'm just absolutely delighted that we were able to provide this vital support to so many organizations in Ottawa, but across Ontario. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. As a reminder, if you do have a question, if you could put your name and outlet in the chat function on the side, and I will unmute you to ask your question. We'll just give it about 30 seconds there. Minister, your first question comes from Nitin at Prime Asia TV.
Hey, Nitin.
I've unmuted you. You'll be able to ask your question now. There we are.
Hello. Good morning, Minister.
Good morning.
Minister, very good announcement. We appreciate that. My question is like in Ontario, city of Vaughan and Niagara are one of the main tourism hub cities. Vaughan has a Wonderland, Niagara has a Niagara Falls. My first part of the question is like, do you have any plan to revive tourism in these two places?
Yeah, so I announced last week, and I'll be having a further announcement of a tourism recovery task force. The one announcement I did make is that former tourism minister and former leader of the Progressive Conservative Party of Ontario, Tim Hudak, will be leading that. And he will be leading a group of people from across Ontario to look at our signature destinations as well as our gateway cities and signature destinations like, for example, Wonderland and Niagara Falls, or the gateway cities like Ottawa and Toronto, who have major international airports, but also major convention centers and require a lot of business travel to support their economy. So that's some of the work that we've been doing. I'll have future funding announcements in tourism, but I think it's safe to say that it's one of the bedrock parts of our economy, and we need to make sure that when it's safe to do so, we can safely welcome back visitors to all parts of Ontario. And I think that this summer in particular will be much more about hyper local tourism. I'll have maybe MPP Ghamari talk a little bit about it, but her and I had the opportunity this past summer to be tourists in our own city, and we're able to do a few things in her riding and my riding. And so what it is really right now is really getting people in Ontario safely to reconnect. And I wondered, Goldie, if you had anything you'd like to add.
Well, I think, thank you, Minister. One thing I'm personally really excited about is learning more about the tax credits and tax incentives for people who are visiting tourism destinations within Ontario. I think with the pandemic, travel, obviously, the nature of travel has changed. And oftentimes, myself included, before COVID, we would travel a lot, either out of province or out of country. But I think this past year has really highlighted the numerous and just incredible local tourism destinations that we have, not just in the city of Ottawa, but within the province. So, I think this is a fantastic announcement, because I think this, coupled with the fantastic tourism places. I mean, just in my own riding, I can think of, Saunders Farm or Stanley's Old Maple Lane Farms, or, some of the heritage museums, the Goulburn Heritage Museum or the Osgood Heritage Museum, historical societies. So I think this is a fantastic way to sort of highlight those key tourism sectors. And in the summer when we did travel around to some of the places in my riding, it was a lot of fun because it really gets to highlight and showcase everything that we have in Ottawa.
Minister, I have a follow-up here. Now, in the region of Peel, if we say Caledon has the biggest potential to become a world's greenest city, why is ministry working on something? Because Brampton is missing any world attraction. So that's a question also, that's a suggestion also. Why don't ministry take a suggestion of all the municipalities in Ontario and get a suggestion on what they want in their city to be a world attraction? Because when tourists come to Ontario, they should not only visit Niagara Falls, they should have multiple options to visit different cities, including Caledon and Brampton, because they are missing a world level tourist park or infrastructure in that way.
Yeah, excellent question, Nathan. And I think our white paper addresses some of that. And I think in terms of the trails that we want to create across Ontario, I mean, obviously it's important that our signature destinations and our gateway cities get back up and running because people do come to Ontario for Niagara Falls or to visit our nation's capital or come to see the CN Tower in Toronto. But one of the things that we're looking at is how do we use some of the, not only the natural beauty, but also some of the cultural attributes that we have in a variety of our different communities and encourage travel there. And then the other part of that is through our festivals and events and our sport hosting. How do we bring back that level of tourism post-pandemic into those communities? And I can tell you, as a hockey mom, I've been on numerous times in the GTA, taking my daughter and her hockey team to Brampton and to Mississauga and here in Toronto. And we're tourists that way. So we're going to have to start to slowly rebuild that capacity back. And those are important tourism dollars. And so we're absolutely committed to working with the destination marketing organizations and the regional tourism organizations to ramp that up when it's safe to do so.
Thank you very much. Minister, your next question comes from John at the Stittsville Richmond Community Voice. John, have I muted you?
I haven't talked to you, John, in a while. Do you want to go to me or to Goldie first?
I have unmuted you, John. You'll just have to accept on your end.
I'm sure he'll want to speak with you, Minister. I speak with John all the time. I see him around everywhere. Great to see you, John.
I think we're still on mute, John.
John, did you get the prompt to accept the mute on your side? Okay, we can come back to John, Minister. We also have a question from Raphael at Radio Canada. Raphael, I've unmuted you.
Hi, Raphael.
Hi, Minister Mcleod. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm glad you just mentioned hockey.
I mentioned that just for you.
Yeah, it's always a bit off topic when I have to ask a question, but I was wondering if you had any developments with the OHL, and especially I was wondering if there's any cutoff date. You mentioned the NHL draft. It could be postponed, so I was wondering if that modified the process.
Well, look, the process is moving along quite nicely right now, Raphael. We are working with the OHL as well as with the Ministry of Health and the Chief Medical Officer of Health. We must satisfy, in order to have a return to play for any of our leagues, the Chief Medical Officer of Health's threshold. So that work is ongoing. And I think in the next week or two, we should have a sense of when and where the OHL will be able to return. I'm feeling much more optimistic these days. I think that I think as we start to go into further detail, that this will help us find an end to this challenge. But my team and the OHL have been working extremely well together. It's really just now up to the Chief Medical Officer of Health, being satisfied with their proposal.
Raphael, do you have a follow-up?
Yes. Well, thank you for that answer. I was wondering if you had mentioned that the detail level of the plans that were submitted earlier was maybe not to the level that you expected and you wanted something more similar to the NHL or the AHL. Has it been, you said you're optimistic, has it been better in the formulation at this point?
Well, look, I think when we go through this pandemic, the leaders early on were the NBA, as well as the Canadian Olympic team, in order to get our training facilities up and running. Then we were able to work with the NHL to get the bubble supported, and then the NHL, obviously, for the Canadian division, and then the AHL. So we continue to work with with best practices, making sure that all of our athletes and those that would be around them would be safe from COVID-19 and to stop the spread. So the issues with respect to the OHL is, now we have that threshold with the AHL and the NHL. And so that's what we're working toward. We're also, working with other organizations as well, like the Canadian Premier Soccer League and a number of other entities. And so that's work is ongoing, but there's a number of considerations, right? It's what the covariants look like, what is the level of COVID-19 in a particular area? What does a bubble look like? Who's allowed in that bubble? Are people coming in and out of the bubble? When we get the athletes to the bubble, have they been tested so that they walk in and they're safe and healthy so that there isn't a spread as we've seen elsewhere across the border? So a number of considerations. And so the team, my team at the ministry is working, as I said, frequently with the OHL to support their efforts. And it really is up to the Chief Medical Officer of Health to determine whether or not it's a safe environment. And so we take his lead and base our decisions on that. But again, I am feeling far more optimistic, and I'm excited. Goldie and I love our Ottawa 67, so we'd like to see them on TV if we can, or online. So this is something that we really care about. And with respect to the NHL draft, obviously we want to make sure that these kids, these players and athletes have several games in, so that scouts can watch them play.
Thank you very much, Minister. I believe we were able to get John on there. And John, you're able to go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah, hi, thanks. I was having a few computer problems here. Yeah, hi, Lisa, it's great to see you. I was wondering, what were some of the criteria that were applied so that to dispense these grants, this funding?
Yeah, it's emergency stabilization funding to our core cultural institutions. So each one of these institutions have already an existing relationship with the Ontario Arts Council, and this would be 88% of their funding that they've already received. So this was the best way to get money out the door. Then in addition to the $1 million that we have for artists, that eligibility is still being worked on, but it will be very similar to the criteria of the existing Ontario Arts Council intake. And just to give you a sense, the OAC provided over $2.5 million this year to individual artists. So this would be an additional $1 million to support those artists and those creators across Ontario. And they could be a writer, a painter, they could be a ballet dancer, a singer. We just want to make sure that we're supporting them as well. And this is all in addition to and on top of the $60 million Ontario Arts Council Fund, the $2 million Ontario Cultural Attractions Fund, the $20 million Reconnect Fund, and the $7 million Ontario Music Investment Fund. So there are a number of opportunities for people to access money, but we wanted to, in this particular case, make it so that it was accessible quickly to support some of these organizations.
Oh, follow up, Lisa, then, so that all of these organizations have had a relationship with the Ontario Arts Council.
Yeah, so they are they've got a good working relationship, and they've scored very high in the past in order to receive funding through the OAC. And so this was the best way for us to get liquidity into the sector as quickly as possible. And the institutions that you'll note from Ottawa are quite well known and have contributed a great deal to our cultural fabric and our economy. And I always say this is the Ministry of Joy and Jobs, and it's a double bottom line.
Yeah, no, thank you. And perhaps if I could ask a question to Goldie.
Make sure it's tough.
Yeah, we'll try to throw a hard one, but I don't know if it is. Goldie, I was wondering about it's great to see the funds coming to the Stitzel Aboriginal Experience Organization. Have you had much interaction with that organization in your time as MPP?
I've heard of them, but I don't believe that we've actually had an opportunity to have a meeting yet. I know that this past summer it was on my list of things to do, to go travel around the province and the riding, and to visit some of those organizations or associations that I hadn't had an opportunity to yet. But obviously with COVID, that put a damper in those plans. But I do look forward to reaching out to them and learning more about what they do, because I think it seems like such a cool experience, and I think you know, promoting and you know, promoting our Aboriginal heritage, and also you know, making that learning opportunity available to people is such an important thing. So I'm just really proud to have something like that in the riding, and I'm excited to see what they can do.
And maybe, John, when it's safe to do so, Goldie and I can go out and you can join us.
Yeah, no, I love that, because as you know, both of you know, Aboriginal reconciliation is very important, and anything we can do to promote it, to help these organizations like this, funding obviously will help this organization. That's just stupendous as we move along the path of reconciliation.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much, John.
Okay.
Minister, your next question comes from Raphael, and this will be your last question. Raphael, you can unmute on your end and ask your question.
One last one about hockey. I was just wondering if we're trending towards more UB cities rather than every team playing in their own markets, and if the no contact policy is still a thing.
Well, look, right now I can answer broadly on contact. So right now, the Chief Medical Officer of Health has not permitted body contact in any sport. So that rule would remain as a result of his decision. That said, if there is a full return to play and perhaps a hub city, that would allow the players to play like they would if they were in the NHL or AHL with full contact. So again, these are all considerations from the Chief Medical Officer of Health, and that we're working on with the OHL and with the Chief Medical Officer of Health. And so we're doing what we can to try and advance this along, and we're trying to do it quickly, recognizing that it's important to get the season in. We're also looking at, as I said, a number of other major league sports and amateur sports to see how we can best accommodate them through the pandemic as well. So again, when the Chief Medical Officer of Health lets me know, I will let you know.
Thank you very much, everyone. We'll now turn it back to the Minister and MPP Ghamari for any closing remarks.
Well, perhaps I'll hand it over to Goldie and to see if you have any final comments.
Thank you, Minister. Again, thank you for inviting me to join you for this very exciting announcement. Just want to thank you again for all the hard work you're doing. And I think, the fact that there are so many organizations and associations and groups in Ottawa that have received funding, I think that sends a clear and strong message to everyone in Ottawa that, we are very lucky to have such a strong voice at Queen's Park and Minister Mcleod. And all of our Ottawa area colleagues. I think, one thing that I think sometimes people worry about is Ottawa kind of getting lost in the hustle and bustle of Toronto. But, with strong advocates like Minister Mcleod and, being able to work with her, I want to let everyone know that the four of us, we are working hard for you, and, we're making sure that Ottawa is well represented and well recognized and well served at Queen's Park. So I just wanted to thank the Minister again for everything, and I'm really excited to see what the future holds.
Well, thanks, Goldie. And I'll just conclude on this because, we were able to give a number of organizations in Ottawa support, and we've been able to do that same thing with our Reconnect Festival and event programming. And I can say that Ottawa has received not only its fair share, but is really punching above its weight with respect to the sectors that we represent. Tourism, culture, sport, and heritage are the third largest, if not second largest sector in the city of Ottawa, outside of government. And I guess if you look at high tech being the second, a lot of that plays into the role that we have here through our digital and interactive media, animation, and the like. So these sectors are very important. They create a lot of jobs in the city of Ottawa, but they also create a lot of joy for the people of our city. And I'm looking forward to continuing to support these sectors for our economic recovery, but just as importantly for our social recovery. So thanks everyone for joining us. And Raphael, I got another couple of press conferences today. If you want to talk more about the OHL, happy to do that too. Take care, everyone.
Thanks so much, everyone. Have a great day.